quick little disclaimer, this video does contain spoilers, so if you haven't watched Serial Experiments Lain, I highly encourage you do, or don't if you don't care about spoilers at all. I don't know what kind of human being you are if you like being spoiled. Anyways, why was this one of the most disturbing animes I've ever watched? And it's not disturbing in a sense where the characters do the most diabolical things, but disturbing where the show tests your attention and comprehension. Serial Experiments Lain was a little difficult to grasp as it follows Lain's perspective for the majority of the series, and the main point that the story is trying to convey through her eyes is the advancements in technology, more specifically the internet. And we follow this main idea with the first couple of episodes where Lain isn't familiar with a simple computer. And in this timeline of the anime, it's common to own one, as sending emails from student to student is a regular form of communication. But after a few episodes, Lain begins to familiarize herself with this sort of technology, and then later on wants to upgrade. As her upgrades come in though, Lain eventually is literally consumed by this unfamiliar territory, one in which she will eventually become goddess. Now, I'm getting a little too ahead of myself, so let's take a step back. As I mentioned earlier, Lain is quite literally consumed and is one with technology. But to better describe this is to put simply, she was non-stop on that damn computer. She's literally an iPad kid, which is creepy to think about because in our modern age, this is a literal problem. But back to the main point, as she got her new computer, she would buy new parts to upgrade it. But these weren't simple upgrades that she'd make. These additional parts would eventually take over her entire room. And it's almost alien-like how beefed up this new setup was. But this isn't what I meant when I said that she was consumed by technology. From what it seems, her alter ego or her new self was quite literally a new being on the internet and in the real world. To prove this would be that there were cases where she couldn't recall certain events that her friends said that she actually did. But you may be asking yourself, how is the internet persona manifested into a physical being? Yes, these power lines weren't just put there to be mysterious, but a literal symbol of all technology being connected, just like a spider web where each strand of webbing is eventually connected to one center point. But because these poles run everywhere throughout the city, Lain is everywhere all at the same time. But how is this a problem? Well, because she's literally two people in one, and being everywhere but only being one person all at the same time, Lain is basically an omnipotent being. But there's one character I didn't bother to mention until now, that being God. But was he really a god though? From what we can get from the anime, this god can only control everything from one domain, that being the internet. Unlike Lain, where she has control and access to everything in both the virtual and physical world. As God is aware of Lain's existence, they begin to plot against her to become what she is. And while merging these two worlds, their plans failed due to Lain finally understanding who she really is. And if you're confused, well, so was I. But recalling back to everything that has happened in the entire show, Lain has had an identity crisis ever since she's got her new computer. And we can see it in this scene where everyone is bombarding her with questions.
But you don't think that the you in the real world is the same as the one that's standing here in the Wired, do you?
Well, no, because I'm me. I'm me.
And as she's having a mental breakdown, she just snaps back to what we see as reality. And it's a little uncomfortable to see a young child just going through this. And that's one of the reasons why this makes this anime so disturbing, is that what we see at this moment is a literal child having an identity crisis, and it's not easy to take in. But once we see the episode where she confronts God with her friend, we realize that Lain was never really a human to begin with. I mean, there were subtle hints throughout the anime where she had a very, very awkward relationship with her parents. The only one that she really talked to the most was her dad, which he was really into computers. So yeah, as hard as it is to take in, Lain was never really a human to begin with, but a very powerful entity in the internet. With this self-discovery, Lain knows that her existence in the physical world is an actual threat to humanity, as it almost causes harm to the one that she calls her best friend. And to disrupt this imbalance, Lain erases herself from existence, restoring everything as it once was. The only thing is, no one will remember her, and not even her family. The only one who can somewhat recall memories of her existence was her best friend. Now you might be thinking to yourself, how at all is this disturbing? Well, for one, the character who we once knew was a different person or entire different entity the entire time. But secondly, where we watch this entity erase herself from reality and sets herself in a false one where she's the only one in existence and not having any more contact with humans ever until the last episode and the last scene where she meets her friend again. But what's unsettling about it is that when she meets her friend, she is a grown adult while Lain is still stuck in a body of a child. Lastly, it's the attachments to technology that we have today and how basically everything is connected through just one cloud known as the internet.
promise you I'll always be right here. I'm right next to you. Forever.